Hello, my name is Brant Hunt. My channel is Discerning What is True. Today is the first day of January 2024. Going to be reading from Rene Schwaller's book, The Egyptian Miracle, The Introduction to the Wisdom of the Temple. I didn't realize this, but there are actually two books in this particular book. So we're going to be reading chapter 8 today, called Harmony, Analogy, Functions, and Factors. And my information actually is on YouTube. Discerning What is True is my channel. Also on Odyssey, and also will be shared on Facebook. So let's get into this particular work by Schwaller. Harmony, analogy, functions, and factors. Sacred science is like a plant. Its origins is a sole singular seed. As soon as its germ is sprung like a metaphysical image of the world to come, it put forth the main stem from which immutable ramifications emerge with their leaves, their flowers, and their fruits. One hypothesis is only whence there springs a world, the hypothesis of original unity. Yet, how can one speak of hypotheses when our entire being enjoys the certitude of this incomprehensible unity, that is, the divine cause? But it is not absolutely correct to say that innumerable branches spring from the main stem. Actually, ramifications or branches are encountered at very specific points, for the river of life gives fruit only when a resistance opposes its flow. Interesting with that particular perspective is that I think that's the only way that we grow also in our own lives, when there is resistance. And with that, we begin to grow up, if you follow what I'm saying. At least this can be a first translation of the strange phenomenon that poses the question, that is, why is it that at precisely such a spot a branch grows on this trunk, a leaf sprouts on this branch, a bud of a flower or fruit burgeons? It seems absurd to believe that there could be something without a cause. Our intelligence rebels against the idea of a effect without cause, and everything appears to us as a effect. Actually, we maintain that everything is an effect because we imply a cause. An effect without cause would be a miracle, and everything tells us there is no effect without cause, hence that there are no miracles. This seems an unfortunate way of regarding the problem. Cause and effect are as inseparable as day and night, as yet and yes, as yes and no, as are generally the two aspects of one thing. If there is something, this something comprises its own cause and effect. As long as the problem is faced in this mentality, it cannot be brought beyond the domain of simple intelligence, beyond the quantitative and the arithmetic domain. Accordingly, we would have to admit certainly that there are as many causes and effects as there are multiples of something. This would be an error. Numbers shows us that there is a harmony, a necessity, or I should say necessary sequence of facts and factors. Multiplication is never situated before division, just as addition can never precede this division and situates itself between division and multiplication. So what he's saying here simply is by the illustration that I showed last night, multiplication is never situated before division, right? In order to have a child, the whole birth process is the two cells break up, you see, and eventually multiplies such and such. But it has to be division at first, you see, is what he's saying. Thus, there exists once and for all a well-regulated course, a true method of nature. This method must also necessarily situate the origins of phenomena as shown by number, the unity of beginning. In other words, at the origin of every phenomenon, there exists a state corresponding to this nature of unity, whether this phenomenon is the germination of a seed, the thrust of a branch, the building of a leaf or flower, the conception of a new being, or the birth of a stellar world. Outside of metaphysics unity, that is, all unity is composed, but being quantitatively composed does not prevent it from becoming qualitatively the original one and only. Thus, truth must be found in quality, and our way out to the dismay of the savants, S-A-V-A-N-T-S, will be through metaphysics, which does not necessarily imply something nebulous, the vague speculation of innocent dreamers leading nowhere, quite to the contrary of these positivities and realistic savings. We shall arrive at realities that will burst the vicious, vicious cycle or circle in which they revolve. Cause, at the philosophical and number teaches us, is a neutral state, a state neutralizing two qualities. Cause is therefore not an impulse, it is not a will, it is not a source of live energy. Every time any state whatsoever realizes or reaches the equilibrium of its qualities, the causal state, the causal state is attained. And this becomes or can become the point of departure of a new phenomenon. The causal state of the same qualities under the same conditions gives rise to the same phenomenon, and all phenomenon in their manifestation follow one follow one same method of becoming, whatever the variety of the final product. This defines the basics of a new philosophy resulting from what is known concerning number. As for cause and effect, it can be omitted in the quantitative domain of the material, the arithmetic and the sensory showing that every cause has an effect, and every effect a cause, and as anything whatever is an effect, anything whatever has a cause. Here we should tread carefully, though, for this conclusion demands verification. Esoteric science situates itself differently by saying that every phenomenon reaches an equilibrium of its qualities. This equilibrium, a neutral state, becomes a causal state whose effect, according to the natural method, is produced only when conditions call for the new splitting into the two divisions of the qualities. Thus, every effect has a cause, but every cause does not necessarily have an effect. Furthermore, the link between cause and effect is not a exaltation of energy that came from the cause going towards the effect. Rather, the cause allows the energy to manifest without this energy coming from the cause. The cause is the neutral center that absorbs the energy in order to produce the phenomenon. This explanation is complex, but amounts to saying there is unity. Yeah, there's a working of the two together. That is the unity of the two, characterized by the neutrality of qualities. Then there is energy as second necessary principle, which is the eternal unity, the only energy. And thirdly, there is the direction, the channel, the specification of this energy towards the phenomenon through the method of realization or corporation. Esoteric science teaches no simple cause and effect. There is cause, energy, substance, and phenomenon. Here again, the three principles emerge, which is part of the metaphysics perspective. Seed, substance, or energy, and phenomenon, or the thing which has become. The phenomenon is nothing other than energy or substance that incarnates, takes body, becomes material. The first words of the Gospel of John teach the relationship of this energy to the cause or causal state. In the beginning, that is, at the origin of all becoming, was the Word, that is, the Logos, the energy substance. And the Word was with God, the one, the cause, the causal state. And the Word was God, the causal state absorbs and becomes energy substance by incarnating. Thus, in simple words enigmatically only because they are simple, all the secrets of cause to effect is given. The effect will be the becoming, the corporification, the incarnation of Horus-Christ as incarnation of the Word, personified by Mary-Isis, seated by Joseph, bearer of the one and only causal state. A definite break should be made with certain notions that absurd philosophy of centuries and millennia of ignorance routinely accepts concepts that are received and inherited through activism, ATAVISM, activism. Such a notion is the conception of a direct cause to effect relation. When the sap of the tree has exhausted its qualities through excess, it stops, ceasing to be what it is, and fixes itself, thus forming a knot that will be the new causal state. From this, a new sap will form a new shoot, just as a new branch will sprout from a new seed. This is the mechanism of branching, and it is not yet the vital revelation of what happens. But what vitally happens is just as clear as that. It suffices to change some words to label these phases by means of what is known. Indeed, what does this mean? To exhaust qualities, to sow, to nurture, to fix, to ripen. Once this is known, all is known. We shall proceed slowly and surely. First, in passing, let us point out a source of errors. Through the great Pythagoras, the tradition of an exalted sacred science was brought from Egypt to Greece. Its teachings remained secret, reserved for a few choice disciples. Some general ideas were disseminated, and all of so-called Greek philosophy, foundation for the evolution of Western thought, they constructed upon these ideas. The sacred right triangle was made into trigonometry, that is, numbers become arithmetic, mathematics, and astronomy. Hermetics was turned into chemical pollution. Mentality fell from intellect into intelligence, and eminent ideas became mental and sensory, and spirit was made into destructive forces of corporate matter. Unity was turned into an atom of Democritus, the point and moving point, into Euclid's line, Euclidline. The vision of the sixth sense was also sacrificed to the concrete, the tangible, the useful. And in general, the gift of life was turned into a sacrilegious squandering. When Aristotle began so well was admirably continued by the Semitic Arabs, that is crowded by Christian Judaism, finally to fall quite logically into the most disastrous debauchery the history of the human spirit has ever known. A breakdown we continue to live to this day. Again, these are pointing out these whole issues that took place over 1,700 years ago. If we are to push forward and revise the past in order to construct a new model, we must be certain mistrust each and every evidence of rational philosophy and beware of almost all notions that have been classified as indisputable. In travesty of a well-known saying, intellect can have reasons which reasons does not know. We must allow for two forms of reason, a vital and a cerebral. Logic. There are also two forms of comprehension. One is intellect, that is a direct communion. The other is intelligence, a kind of mnemonic combination. Vital reason and intellect do not die with the body. the brain, however, seat of the intelligence participants in material decomposition. The immortal and eternal being in us forever summons knowledge, eternal science, as an aim of a fleeting incarnation as a man's duty. The most exalted of creatures must needs formulate a science. Without it, he is bound to suffer this process of nature's passivity, and suffer it until the arduous task of awakening his consciousness has been achieved, meaning the consciousness of the eternal being within us. Yeah, that's good. The sad part, simply, folks, is that um, God is within us. The problem is simply is we need to wake him up in our head, you see. And unfortunately, most people don't know that. Without that, what good is all the rest? What good all the endless discussions of philosophy? What good the science that destroys itself? What purpose is awakening every morning for a wearisome daily struggle to reach the evening in a state of exaltation, being exhausted, to being tired, to reach the agony of such an empty life? If our consistent existence were conducted in the spirit of truth, all suffering would be joyous, all effort fruitful, nothing would be worth troubling over, for the aim would illuminate us, and this entire passage would be looked upon as a mere tragedy comedy without importance in itself. Only the aim counts. As long as cerebral intelligence governs the world, and it will be dominated by beings of inferior mentality, for man's life will be but struggle of force and power, struggle of vanity, struggle of wealth, struggle for existence whose aim is warped. All of life will be based only on the equilibrium of supply and demand, power and subjection, the justice of the prize fighter, and the right of the stronger, equilibrium of arguments where every affirmation can be contradicted, every proof destroyed and denied, making man the most ferocious of beasts. But man is not a beast, he's animated. Man is a epitome of the cosmos, a creature housing the divine spark. Man is not an evolved amphibian, a animal form that has become what we are. Man is perfect at his origin, a divine being who has degenerated into what we are. It took an incredible decency for man to accept materialistic theories such as those of Lamarck, Lamarck, and Darwin. All trace of confidence in divine harmony and of legitimate pride must have vanished in our lack of reaction against a science that lowers us to the brute state of the so-called prehistoric man, or anthropophagia. Those who ever those who steer humanity towards such stultification are madmen or criminals. It is not a feeling of indignation alone that makes me speak in this fashion, but also a profound respect for the masters who at all times have attempted to preserve the elements of a real science for a future humanity. Furthermore, it is desire to summon off open-minded individuals towards the efforts that needs to be made. The effort to change the prevalent mentality for the world for the real for the world's revolution must be accomplished on this philosophical plane, not on a sacred social plane, and particularly not by means of brutal force. He's given an illustration here. I'm just talking about, go back to what we call the madmen or criminals. He gives a little definition here. He just says, here ignorance is deliberate, an excuse. So this is what he's talking about simply is it's excuse. It's people make excuses for themselves. Let's see where we're at here. Let's see. Here we are. Okay. There's more power and a profound conviction in a growing interior light than in all the explosions of the world of men. Harmony is the method of nature, and the natural sequence of becoming can be described by numbers and their inevitable development. This shows us that throughout the world there must be phases that are similar to each other, from specific characteristics that distinguish the kingdoms, the genericals, and species among themselves, among spring similarities in their development. These similarities can be called analogs, not in the Platonic sense, which implies a relationship of quantitative equality, but in the esoteric sense of a relationship of vital laws. In the Greek sense of analog, it signifies, for example, that A and B and B is C, which we translate as proportionate. Instead of finding in this formula a numerical relationship that serves for calculations, the esoteric sense sees therein a vital function. Thus, an analogy means development from a causal state to an effect by means of one and the same law of harmony. Was this what Plato really meant? Was the quantitative meaning added by his successors who misunderstood the esoteric implications? Judging from the rest of their misinterpretations, one would be tempted to think so. Be that it may, esoteric analogy is based on harmony and on the natural method of becoming. The next section is called harmony. Harmony dictates its own definition, and to try to define it is in any other way is to relapse into a arithmetic mentality or into pure light. Philosophers have attempted definitions based mainly on the elements of justice and beauty proposed by Plato in order not to be led astray. However, it is best to leave aside all ethical considerations and to contemplate the facts alone. Provided it is a natural order, any order of things will always will group harmoniously. If this order is artificially disturbed, I should say, it will return by itself to the natural harmony, just as the uncultivated rose will revert to the eglantine as the domesticated animal reverts to a savage state, as the surface of the sea returns to calm after the storm. It goes back to its original state, when it was calm, when things were the way it was, which was harmony within itself. Harmony is always a natural state unmodified by artifice or accident. Everything that nature produces becomes through a causal state that conforms to the ambivalent conditions, harmonizing with them, and produces the effect, which cannot possibly not be and cannot be other than it is. Under the same conditions, therefore, the same causal state will produce the same effects. Yet identical conditions are never found to exist, so that there will always be more or less modifications to the effect. The definition of the laws of harmony lies in determining the relation between variation in conditions and variation in effects. To establish this definition, according to a analysis mentality, would probably lead to an infinite shading of meaning without ever resolving the problem. It would be like analyzing all the multiple shades of yellow to be found in painting and in nature in order to define yellow as a color. Nature cannot help being harmoniously, for everything is the natural product of a cause without giving conditions. To paraphrase Plato, modeling the world after the immutable, that is, God made it conform to the conditions of things that are born, and that therefore are also mortal. Cause and its genetic eminence are obviously necessary for harmony to exist. Should either element be lacking, there would be no harmony. The absolute one, uncaused and invariant, I should say, is outside of harmony. As soon as the one splits into two, there is generation, cause, and condition of becoming, and hence there is harmony. Thus, harmony is essential number, for it is the disposition that within certain given conditions cannot be otherwise. The triangle itself is in harmony. is a harmony. An infinite diversity of triangles does not modify their harmony as triangles, but the harmony of a certain triangle can be more or less perfect as compared with another. Therefore, an original triangle can be designated as the causal form of harmony, while a perfect triangle would result from the various possibilities of this harmony's perfection. Hence, there are necessarily some basic elements for every harmony, just as there are some numbers that are basic to all numbers. Moreover, there appears to be identity between these basic numbers and the basic elements of harmony. As for the ambivalence, the essential conditions under which a causal state can generate its effect. This can only be the epitome of all possible qualities. With this in mind, the triangle of five is the pentateuch, not the pentateuch, pentateuch P should be recalled, for it gives not only all possibilities, but all factual conditions as well. The relation between the 12 numbers surrounding the causal trinity and the 12 signs of the zodiac has already been brought out. We can now trace them in a sequence that closes upon itself, forming a circle divided into 12 sites. Being creative, the divine trinity is the real model according to which the world is made. It presides over all, emanates all from inside to outside. It verifies the eminence of the zodiac, the 12 members of the perfect triangle. In the 12 numbers or signs, or more precisely yet, in the 12 sites, can be found the three principles coloring the four elements, each one triple, which also bring us to the 12. See, 3 times 4 equals 12. The diameter, furthermore, divides the circle into two parts, giving it a dual or sexual character, so that necessarily 6 of its sides are male and 6 are female. This dualization allows of two interpretations. One is the alternation of male and female character according to each sign, to which one of the elements is also assigned. The other is a division of the circle in two sectors, one of male character, what they call the Chinese yang, corresponding to south and summer, the other of female character, yin, corresponding to north and winter. Thus, we have a world circumscribed by all evident possibilities. I'll show you this here. The book. And you can see the 4 elements on the outside, which is demonstrated here. And the triangle within itself, which is metaphysics. And you'll know this simply is the force, again, like I said, the 4 elements being fire, water, air, and earth. By all conditions through which the causal trinity can generate. And this image epitomizes cause and eminence of all harmony. Let us now examine this trinity itself. And it has been said, the analysis of anything whatsoever leads us to the triple essence of its constitution, and it would require an entire lifetime to demonstrate this. Let us be satisfied with pure reasoning first, and then with faith, and let us construct everything on the certitude. We will thus be much ahead of those believers in the various religions who say, I believe in a God or triple nature, end quote, without knowing what to do with their belief. We can say Trinity is the essence of all things. Hence, it will be the essence of all reasoning, just as it will be the essence of a living cell, the essence of the lines in the palm of a hand, the essence of any organism, the essence of a stellar system, the essence of an atom, the essence of the qualities of all matter, the essence of sound, of the colors of light, and so on. It will even be the essence of all drama, where says the humanists, two are needed so that there are two actors and the drama. We know that the three principles preside over each becoming, and that thereafter in each thing there are four elements. We also know that all numbers are found in the tetractys. This, I'm having difficulty spelling this, folks. It's Tetractys. This suffices for the moment. Thus, in every phenomenon, that is, 3 and 4 factors must be discovered. In fact, when the quantitative composition of any natural phenomena is analyzed, these 7 factors are found present. The 3 principles preceding the 4 elements as the latter are already occulted, containing in each of the 3 principles. In other words, each unit of the manifested triangle is of devil nature. Let us lay it out in this triangle. So I'm going to show you this also. You'll notice that the air and fire at the top, as I share this, and then the ones below it will be air, water, earth. Might be difficult to see here, but we'll try our best, okay? So like I say, you see the air at one area on the left and the fire at the top. One has got a division sign on it, looks like, which is air. You have a massive, larger triangle in the middle, and then you have air and water. That is, one being the triangle being upside, and then the water is being upside down. And you'll see the water on the other side here with earth being the same, with the 2 prongs that being the top. There's still a triangle. So he says here in the footnotes, he says, in hieroglyphic writings, the word 3, which is KHEMT, expressed by the image of the phallus, the semile power, is harmonious with thinking, in the sense of reflecting or conceiving. And also the German word would be Bedenken, that is Bedenken. In mathematics, there are only 3 possibilities of fracturing unity in such a way that A equals B plus C equals 1. By means of the arithmetic, harmonical, and geometry, the latter corresponding to the golden section. In nuclear science, the final analysis recognizes only 3 constituted elements of matter: the proton being positive, the neutron being neuter, and the electron being negative, but each is double in nature. At each point, we find 2 elementary natures that determine its character, or are precisely that are contained in its characteristics. In other words, the hexagram in the image of a occult trinity and not of the sextuplet seems to represent. According to the old adage, Daimon, Daimon, es dos inverses. Quote, the inverted triangle does not add itself to the upright triangle, but only shows the other aspect of the divine nature. Before the fall of the angels, God contained in himself the nature of both categories. Before his fall, man was created male and female in one, as one in the absolute nature. Before its manifestation, itself and its images are a unity. As this is not comprehensibly to us, we symbolized it with the shield of David, which means that the shield meaning knowledge, counters every attached, meaning ignorance. This should help us live. This should help us help us life. I guess not right. It's going to be live. Let us live one of the veils. Lifts one of the veils. That's correct. This should help us lift one of the veils, hiding the hexagram on the divine triangle in the double nature. We have seen that the ancients designated the four elements by the four principal states, each characterized by the two qualities chosen from among all the natural existence possibility, that is, hot, cold, dry, and moist. Pursuing this symbolic corporation, the ancients also gave to the three principles names drawn by analogy from the most characteristic of natural objects, in order to express their occult meaning. It should be remembered that fire, air, water, and earth are not ordinary fire, air, water, and earth, but images, icons, symbols of principles. It is obvious that the ordinary fire and water have all the appearances of these qualities, you see. The triangle principle, as we know, corresponds to the principles of seed or father or neutron, substance, matrix, or spirit, and of the resultant form or son as S-O-N. In choosing their images from the first kingdom of creation, the mineral kingdom, the ancient sages adopted for the seed the symbol of sulfur, of Mercury for the matrix or substance, and for the fruit, the definition form being salt. It is true that metallically, mercury is violently coagulated by sulfur and its products, meaning in chemistry, mercuria sulfide. Cinnabar is a salt. Salt is always a final product and relatively fixed. For this reason and for other more complex, which are perfectly comprised by this image, the ancients have adopted this symbolism. They say the three principles of all things are sulfur, mercury, and salt. In sulfur there is fire and air. In mercury there is air and water, and in salt there is water and earth. The three principles thus play the role of three states, each one double, formed of the nature of the two of the three force elements inversely. These four elements are but these natures in separate states. So we're going to show you this right quickly. The principles will be sulfur, mercury, and salt. It should be on the left-hand side. And the elements would be fire, air, and water, and earth. So you have that. As a general, so you see this is part of the triangle, the sulfur, mercury, and salt. And then you have the elements, which we call fire, air, water, and earth. Now do you understand the whole bit, some parts of what we call a pyramid, with it being a square at the bottom, which represents the elements, and then the principles, it being a triangle, sulfur, mercury, and salt. As a general consequence, each phenomenon is compounded of 7 quantitative states, 3 of which are double, each formed by 2 single states. Light can be used as an image to help concretize, that is, the truth of the statement. Light is called white, then it is pure, and we then perceive it as light without definite character. In this case, everything that analysis reveals about it is gathered into a unity where all is in balance. When white light is broken by a triangular prism, for the triangle alone can again reduce a phenomenon to its components, we attain 7 colors, you see. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, among which are to be found 4 fundamental colors and not 3, as is usually thought. There is red, yellow, blue, and indigo. For indigo does not result from any mixture, and blue, intense and as it may be, never by itself gives indigo, which is a somber and a luminous blue. According to what we have just seen, these four color elements must stem from the original triangle, which is light as a whole, but where each of the three principles produce two colors. Our principal triangle is thus necessarily formed of three double colors, which are composited colors, that is red and yellow equals orange, then yellow and blue equals green, and finally indigo and red equals violet, corresponding to the three principles of color. If we maintain this deposition around the triangle that we have adopted until now, we shall find it's what we call, I'm going to show this particular triangle also in here on the next page, and I will share this in a second here. So you'll see um, when I show this, it'll be basically sulfur's at the top, which is orange. Air is to the left, which is yellow, at the top, and also fire being red to the right. To the base, there will be mercury at the base to the left, and salt will be the violet on the right. Okay, and then mercury below that, the green, is through air and water, and salt from violet is water and earth. So let's show you this right here quickly. This interjects an error, for blue and indigo do not produce violet. There occurs a mysterious intervention, for in fact it is blue, which is as an end rejoins the beginning, is indeed the fire of earth, which must unite with waters in order to make salt. Hence there is a regular sequence of numbers, but an irregularity in the qualities. Violet constitutes a junction in the circle between indigo and red. It forms a bond, just as orange and green form the bond between the two elements that flank them. So at the bottom here, we see the principles. Again, it's the sulfur, which is orange, mercury is green, salt is violet. At the base, what we call the elements are the fire, air, water, and earth, fire being red, air being yellow, water being blue, and earth being indigo. We see that the blue and indigo follow each other as if indigo were itself a composite color. In fact, we have here a irregular interval displaying the violet, which is like a call towards the red, its origins. We shall observe when we consider these relationships with respect to sound, that these exist as an apparent, the identical irregularity in the musical scale and in the planetary systems. It should be recalled that each element participates in two qualities. The behavior of the four primary colors can then be examined, considering that each one partakes of the composite color, both preceding and following it. So we have fire being the radiant state, participating in the dry and the hot. Red participates in violet and in orange. The hot is orange. Air, the volatile state, that is, participates in the hot, and the moist, yellow, participates in orange and green. The moist is green. And then we have water here. The liquid state participates in the moist, and the cold, blue, participates in green and indigo. The cold is indigo. And then we have earth. The solid state participates in the cold and the dry, meaning indigo, participates in blue and violet. The dry is violet. So I'll show you this real quick. It's just a little schematic. It's just a little talk here as it shows this. Let's continue. So the coldness and the color of indigo once again shows us the strange displacement. Indigo is at the same time the cold and earth, and this participates of the element and of the quality. We see that indigo is at the same time earth and it's also the cold, the quality of that earth which is cold and dry, a water whose humidity is dry by fire. If we depart for a moment from the field of pure reasoning and examine the facts, we see that in the normal spectrum, the measure of caliphate intensity reveals a maximum of heat situated in the yellow-orange, which we have just seen as hot, while the heat intensity becomes very weak, starting with a indigo, which is called cold, and practically insignificant in the ultraviolet, all of which supports the metaphysical correspondence previously established. We can compare the problem of color with them of musical harmony. We realize that the numerical functions are identical. Let us recall that the height of the tone, that is the number of vibrations, is inversely proportionate to the length of the vibrating string, just as the number of vibrations of color is inversely proportionate to their wavelength. Starting with a string vibrating, for example, at the rate of 16 vibrations per time unit, half of that string gives the octave of the interval tone and 32 vibrations per time unit. Thus, a first octave will play between 16 and 32 vibrations between its entire length and half of it. The number of vibrations of the extreme color, that is violet, limit of the ultraviolet, is double the number of vibrations of extreme red, that is limited of infrared. For the scale, where the complex octave comprises 7 pure tones as well as for light, which is decomposed by the prism into 7 distinct colors. The problem resides in the passage from 1 to 2 in 7 fundamental stages. In musical harmony, there are 3 principles of simple and perfect harmony. So he's saying here V, that is being the number of vibrations, and by the speed of light, the formula is follows. V equals trying to find, looks like C is speed of light and L is the wavelength, which equals numbers of vibrations. The numbers here are arbitrary. The A of a concrete pitch has 435 vibrations per second. The A above has double that, meaning 870 vibrations. We continue on. The fifth equals 2/3 or 2 to 3. The fourth equals 3 over 4, which is 3/4 or 3 to 1, 3 to 4, I should say. And then we have the third equals 4/5 or 4 to 5. The relationship of these harmonious ratios with the tetrahedrons and the sacred triangle 3, 4, and 5 is immediately apparent. It so happens that our planetary system also is sevenfold, comprising the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, or Moon, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Jupiter plays exactly the same role as indigo. It represents a irregularity in the system and is moreover of abnormal size in relation to its situation. To investigate this problem would be beyond our present scope. All we need to know at the moment is that the solar system is structured in analogy to the same laws of harmony as the scale of audible tones, as light, as the vibrator groups, as the electronic layers of atoms, in short, on the same laws of harmony as Genesis in general. But our world is not as simple as it seems at first sight. Just as harmonics of sound establish resonances in octaves, further and further removed, so does our sevenfold planetary system, that is, octaves, have higher resonance. And there are other sevenfold groups of planets circulating around the master of the world, that is Ra, the sun. There's a few footnotes here. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are invisible to the naked eye. And that's why he's got him here. He says Jupiter is the largest planet of our solar system. To convey an idea of its size, here are some figures. While Mars has a volume less than 1/6 the volume of the Earth, Jupiter volume equals that is 1/1300 times the Earth and almost double Saturn. Among these lines, it should also be noted that the double star of Sirius, which for pharaonic Egypt plays the role of central sun for our entire system, suggests the existence of a cosmic atomic structure whose nucleus would be the great provider, the ancient Sothis. A revision of our cosmology is the near future would not be a far-fetched consideration. See Sacred Science, page 27 and 28. Now, what is important is that the entire system consists of octaves of 7 sounds or aspects of the principal's element relationship, and that the phenomenon is always constituted by 7 quantitative factors. Perhaps someday we shall manage to speak of the circle of notions of time and space and the relationship which forms the cosmic spiral. These 7-fold planetary cycles and their intricate interplays could then be directly understood. We would also see the cause for the apparent irregularities of Jupiter, or the color indigo of the unknown form between ultraviolet vibrations and X-rays, and so forth. The esoteric study of the correspondence between metals and planets shows that the mineral kingdom is grouped into 7 quantitative classes like all the kingdoms. This is the reason that the ancients always designated them by planetary symbol only. The root of this tradition, which dates back to the first centuries of our era, undoubtedly reached into antiquity. Accordingly, let us consider some characteristics of the 7 metals as well as their correspondence with planets and colors. Iron is identified with what we call Mars, the Greek Ars, A-R-E-S, divinity of strife and war, as well as with the color red. Most hateful to me art thou art of all the gods inhabiting Mount Olympus. Ars, A-R-E-S, is told by the Zeus of Homer, Elysius, for thou lovest only strife and wars and combat. Thou hast the contentious and inconstant spirit of thy mother, Hera, H-E-R-A, whom I have trouble restraining with my words. Ares, future god, a furious god. I think, I've been wondering if this is Aries, but anyway, I'm going to go with what this guy's written down here. By nature's contentions and inconstant, possesses the essential characteristics of Seth, S-E-T-H, eternal enemy of Horus. Already in the pyramid texts, we find reference to metals issued from Seth. Plutarch specifies that what is meant is the iron the Egyptians called Hom-Typho, that is of Seth, whose name signifies violent, impedient, obstinate, and opposition. Plutarch further specifies that iron is at times attracted by the Ido stone called bone of Horus, at times repulsed in a opposite direction. The planet Mars has a red brilliance, wherefore the Egyptians gave it the name Horus the Red. Comparing these different myths makes us understand how the Greeks identify the iron born of Seth, principle of war and discord, with Eris, and the Romans with Mars, and consequently with the color red and with the element fire as contracting and drying principle, the burning desert in Seth's attribute. Gold is identified with the sun as well as with the color yellow and orange. Since the time of ancient Greece, and then later through the Arabic writings up to our Middle Ages, the inestimable metal, gold, was considered the perfection of the mineral kingdom. For that reason, and for its brilliance as well, it was identified with the sun. In old dictionaries of chemistry, the symbol for gold is identical with the symbol currently used to designate the sun, a disk with a central point, a symbol in which we recognize the eclipse of Ra, the sun. In the Ptolemaic epoch, that is, the name for gold is in fact one of the surnames of Ra, and taken generally, this term is synonymous with master or lord. As for the color yellow or yellow-orange attributed to the sun, it is interesting to note that the first two spectacle rays of gold are situated in the yellow and orange zones of the spectrum. Silver is identified with the moon and with the color white, but since white represents the totality of colors when not decomposed through the spectrum, yellow here replaces what they call pure water. Pure white. Since remotest antiquity, silver was actually designated by a term signifying white, synonymous with light and with all that has a milky and white character, the patron's divinity. Let's see, I'll show you this here. So this figure is figure 29. The metals identified with the planets in the cave from left to right is Jupiter, Mars, Saturn, Mercury. In the foreground, the moon, the sun, and Venus. The white crown is called Nekhbit, the white. Nekheb is also used to designate the moon. The spectral ray characteristic of silver superimposes itself on the ray of Mercury and is situated in yellow-green. In the pharaonic myth, the moon is identified with Thoth and with Khonsu, Khonsit. Thoth recollects the time and seasons and his sacred bird in the white ibis, the sacred ibis, the association of Nephilibet with the moon lends the latter as aspect of nourishing, for that being the moon. Mercury is identified with the planet Mercury naturally, and with the color green. In ancient Egypt, that planet is symbolized by the crocodile Sebek, Sebek, always depicted in green. A pyramid text enters into further details. Sebek with green feathers. It is hardly a coincidence that the first spectrum line of the metal mercury and silver, quicksilver, is situated at the limits of green and yellow. Copper is identified with Venus, and with the color blue or blue-green. Since the very first dynasties, the pharaohs worked the copper mines as well as deposits of turquoise and matachite in the Sinai, where important sanctuaries have been found, dedicated to Hathor, the Aphrodite, the Greeks, and the Roman Venus. It then becomes obvious why Hathor is often designated by the epithet of blue goddess, for not only did she protect the above mentioned deposits, but lapis lazuli was also attributed to her. Great value was attributed to this stone in pharaonic Egypt. True lapis lazuli was carefully distinguished from the blue enamel of the same color, analysis of which has shown that copper was the basis of coloration. Further, the planet Venus was designated as either morning or evening star. Finally, it should be pointed out that the copper chloride contributes to the first band of the spectrum, two important rays situated in the blue and blue-green zones, and that is flame is of a fine blue with exterior borders of green. 10 is identified with Jupiter, to which belongs indigo. The special spectacle line of bit chloride of 10 falls precisely on the limits of dark blue and indigo. Okay, I'll show you one other thing here. So you're at here. Moreover, it was apparent to Jupiter that an ancient tradition attributed to electrum, a alloy of gold and silver. Lead is identified with Saturn and with the color violet. The spectrum of metallic lead gives in the first band a ray situated precisely in the middle of the violet. The ray retains its brilliance under all circumstances, making it absolutely characteristic of lead. As for the traditional linking lead to Saturn could also be indirectly of pharaonic origins. Lead was designated under the name of Tehuti, Tehuti, harmony of Tehuti, the Neter Throth, and master of time, the Greek Chrominus, later become the Roman Saturn. To bring this short study to a conclusion, it would be revealing the schematics, that is, the correspondence between colors, elements, metals, and planets. The correspondence of colors and metal brings out the strange phenomena in the spectrum sequence of colors that complete and compensate or annihilate each other. Thus, red and green annihilate each other and form the color white. So do orange and blue, yellow and violet. These remain alone indigo. It says these, I should say, there remains alone indigo. It can thus be said that the correspondence between metals and colors is a quantitative situation that brings out the curious aspect. Red equals fire equals Mars is complemented by green equals Mercury. Orange is sulfur, which is equals sun, is complemented by blue equals water equals Venus. And then yellow equals air equals moon is complemented by violet equals salt equals Saturn. The fixed character is complemented by the volatile or unstable character of Mars and Mercury, and Sun and Venus, and Moon and Saturn. This first of all discloses the occult color of the planets, then shows the real nature of the phenomena of computations. In Hirto, unexplained. Moreover, this leaves indigo, which is Earth or Jupiter, absolutely alone, uncomplemented, its character being fixed as well as volatile. Heretofore conceived solely through its male and female character, the complement can now be seen in a new light, which takes into account its fixed and volatile nature. This may now seem evident, yet it had to be demonstrated. It also shows that it is gravitational relationship really exists between planets. That is, Mars and Mercury, for example. Jupiter, for one, remains solitary and gravitates alone without any outside counterbalance. Jupiter is a master in the skies, like the sun. It was for a good reason then, and based on sound knowledge, that the ancients called it Ammon. Jupiter, Ammon, became the Neter of the heavens, just as Ra is the master of the world, Zeus and Jupiter. Furthermore, it signifies the same thing. What is interesting to assert here is how everything holds together. From sound itself to cosmic system, there is only one harmony governed by number. Wherefore, we can assert from the beginning that harmony is the natural relationship of a cause to its effect, conditional by an environment. Our cause is Trinity. Our environment, the four ternary elements. The effects of harmony is the soul, sevenfold manifestations called elementary principles. But it must also be recommended that in reality, all energetic phenomena are composed of 7 factors or polemics, which results from the contractions of 9 functions. Pharaonic myth expressed this by means of the original 9 Neters, the great Enoch, and by the 7 Hathors, which presides over the destiny of the newborn infinite. Harmony, or again by the seven sacred cows of heaven. And it should be recalled that Sechah, Sethat, Sechat, the nature of writing, wears the symbol of a seven-branched star, and that the number seven lends this neither the name of Sephetket, whose signature is on everything in creation. There are also the seven sacred perfumes concentrated on the seven planets. Later, the Bible will speak of non-archangels and of seven angels with seven trumpets, seven candlesticks with seven branches, seven seals, and so on. Modern theories concerning the constitution of matter have come to consider specific number alone as characteristics of the element. Strictly speaking, the atom bearing the characteristics of each element is summed up in three factors. One, a number n of neutrons, electrically neutral particles comparably to what elsewhere has been called fixed salt. Number two, a number z of protons, positively charged particles. The graviton n plus z defines the numbers of atomic weight and constitutes the nucleus, whose prodigious density attains thousands of trillions of times the density of water and gathers the entire mass of the atom. Three, around the nucleus there gravitates very small electrons. Seven is number and negative charge. These electrons, which are extremely light, move along other orbits at incredible speed by turning upon themselves around an axis perpetually in their orbit. The set of electrons is furthermore ordered in seven layers of energy, the entire structure bearing a marked resemblance to a miniature solar system. With protons, electrons, and neutrons in the analysis of matter, there can thus be found a striking parallelism with the three principles. Yes, as has been said, there must be considered to be twofold in character, and discoveries dating from 1955 established the existence not only of the positive and negative elements, of the electrons, but also the negative protons or antiprotons. Concerning this subject, L. D. Broglie, Broglie, has written, theoreticians have long suspected the existence of this particle as there existed a positive negative electron. Many believe that a negative proton would also have to be a reality. Quote, the transformation of energy into mass predicted by Einstein. Was attained for the first time in 1931 through the creation of positive and negative electrons. Later, other particles were founded which were derived from greater energy. There is a footnote here I want to add. After this transformation of energy into mass predicted by Einstein, see Paul Pascal. He talks about it in Masson, Masson edition in 1953. The elements are classified in a table of 9 vertical columns and 7 horizontal lines, the whole forming an arithmetic progression at the rate of 1. This classification, that is the Mendeleev, defined the characteristic number, the valencies, the affinities, etc. On the other hand, on page 39, among other functions, it is pointed out that a n is what is called the principal quantitative number. The radius of the orbits vary proportionally to its square, the frequencies inversely to its cube, the speeds inversely to its value, the energies inversely to its square. Later, other particles were found which were derived from greater energy. These particles are mesons, MESONS, also called heavy electrons. According to Prince Ringer, and this is a quote, if the negative proton has been found, this means that positive and negative protons can be created starting from energy. It would be the first example of the creation of nuclei similar to those existing in nature. In 1956, the anti-neutron was in turn discovered, the last of the numerous fundamental particles necessary to the perfect symmetry of these particles encountered in the universe. The anti-neutron has now been detected. These analogies are very seductive, however. It must never be forgotten that they are but symbols of reality. No identification is possible between atomic energy and spirit, origin of matters. Causal energy is spirit, while the energy within the atom is only kinetic and mechanical, and in no sense vital energy. Conclusions. As everything is interconnected, conditions have led us to mention planets, colors, sounds, etc. While we were discussing the creative triangle, we have seen that its functions yield 7 factors, 3 principles in intimate union with the 4 elements, forming 7 manifestations of harmony that are to be encountered anywhere. For there will be 7 colors, 7 sounds, 7 planets, 7 races, 7 principles, organs in the human body, 7 occult bodies, 7 kakarats of occult centers in the body. Cakras, chakras, occult centers in the body. Also 7 factors in any totality of manifestation. But we are now somewhat less ignorant, for we know whence come these 7 and how the principles and elements play in their formation. We are no longer unaware that simple appearance hides the eternities, and so we too will use the hexagram as a shield against ignorance. The notion of harmony now becomes clearer. We see a world with 12 sites with 4 times 3 qualities, and in that world there circulates 7 characters of harmony, 3 principles, 4 elements, 2 sexes, 7 factors, and 9 functions. The study of the corporate functions of the number will yield all the elements to constitute a visible, tangible, living world that undergoes birth and death, and we shall see the world governed by the necessity of an inedible harmony from the moment of the one and only eternal, incomparables one. All flows according to number or harmony, or again, the image of the living according to an eternal model as Plato saw it. Harmony is an inedible destiny. The fire that rises up the earth, the water that invades the continents, the mountains that crumble, the flowers that blooms, the child born, the creatures dying, all, absolutely everything obeys cosmic harmony. All of thus described in number as 2 and 3 come from 1, 4 from 2, 5 from 3 and 4, to 12 from 5, the pentateuch, the 7 from the triangle, and so on. It becomes clear that the world follows no arithmetic logic, and if we desire to make the step from ignorance to wisdom, it is intellect we must call upon, not intelligence. So that's the conclusion of chapter 8 today. And I hope that you enjoyed it. A little longer than I thought it was going to be, but I think it's well worth it. It's quite a bit of knowledge is being put out here. Just talking about, again, chapter 8 being harmony, analogy, and functions and factors. So he gives all these, the functions of it, the factors, and the harmony that goes along with all of it. So again, today is the first day of January 2024. Hope all is well with you. And we will try to do chapter 9 here in a little bit. Thank you for being here. Appreciate your attendance and wish you a good day. Take care.